Dear agent of the universe, I believe that our lives are like rivers all flowing towards death. Although we cannot change the river, like we cannot change our breath, we can influence its journey. After all, life is vibrating energy, and therefore subject to the laws of the universe that cannot be altered. However, by changing the vibration, we can alter and influence our journeys and how we navigate through life's constantly emerging roadblocks. Yoga practices in a way reflect how we live and limit our lives. We get addicted to one type of practice, and when we don't enjoy it, we blame the teacher, the mat, the room, anything but ourselves. We work on only one part of the body, mostly muscle, ignoring all the other parts which contribute to the whole, like joints, fascia, bones, mind, organs. And most of us approach it as an exercise, thereby gaining few of the benefits of the practice. In life, like in yoga, so many of us limit ourselves. As a result, most of us live in a certain bandwidth frequency. What puts us in this bandwidth and keeps us tied there are the 5 kleshas that rule our mind. Kleshas in Sanskrit translates as obstacles, afflictions, poison, pain, and distress. Remember when I said that a thought alone cannot hurt us? If we attached positive emotions to thoughts, they lift us. But if our thoughts are accompanied by one or more kleshas, they lead to our suffering. The first of these is ignorance, believing something to be the truth, when really it is based on misconceptions, stereotypes, assumptions, and illusions. These so-called truths that we gain from the world external through our senses, and we believe them to be permanent, real, and pure. This klesha, known as avidya, keeps us from knowing our true inner self. We can only ever know our true identity through awareness that can only be reached in meditation. That awareness that we are merely consciousness, which manifests as love, light, and peace. Ignorance, that the reality we live now is in fact real, and that without it, our corporations, cars, media, the world, our world, would cease to exist. Everything we see and think to be true is merely a construct of our mind. The second is our ego, the I that separates us from everything that we are in fact one with. But Captain Ego fails to see that, as it is always thinking how I perceive something and how it affects me, I. That ego is the titanium box that stops us from getting to our true self. It defines us and then completely screws with us, as its existence is based on needing constant feedback from sources external to it. And when it does not get it or does not like what it hears, it suffers. No wonder we feel like we're living on a roller coaster. Happy, sad, scared, happy, fear, anxious, insecure, secure. You get the drift. The third obstacle from knowing our true self and gaining inner happiness is our attachments to material things and external objects. We have spoken at length about attachment. We always forget that anything external to us will always be subject to change and therefore can disappear at any moment. When it does, our mind falls into suffering. Our hypothalamus, the master gland, alters the release of hormones in our body, and so the spiral downward continues. When I lost everything that I'd built over 15 years, it was easy for my ego and attachments to make me feel as if I was a failure. When I lost my relationship after 13 years, it was so easy to feel worthless and unattractive. We just keep giving our power away, and then filling the massive hole we leave behind with drugs, booze, sex, antidepressants, self-hate, and insecurities. Luckily, I had yoga and was able to release my attachments and grow the trees, flowers, forest of security, love, gratitude, and happiness from within. So the next time loss and or change happens, I will remain the constant. As you well know, superhero powers, invincibility and strength come from within, not from a corner store, an app, another human, a paycheck, or Amazon. The fourth obstacle is aversion, disliking things wrongly. When something does not satisfy our ego, we tend to dislike them and then avoid them in the future. But like attachments, it's not the external that is causing you pain, fear, and anxiety, which is what aversion brings up in us, but our mind. The more we dislike things, the more we avoid those things, even if those things are in fact good for us. Once we self-realize that nothing can make us suffer or create fear except our own mind, the sooner we can stop flipping between liking and disliking things wrongly. To set up what you like against what you dislike, this is the disease of the mind. The last klesha is our fear of death, because our insane, and I really mean insane, attachment to life. Yet the only constant in life is change and death. It is like being super attached to a caterpillar, thinking if you just love it, feed it, put it in a cage, you can cause it to change its true nature and not change into a butterfly. Now let me be real here. It is almost impossible to remove klesha from our mind, short of retreating into a cave or to a cloud. To be human is to be plagued by all of these. However, what we aim to do through yoga is elevate the awareness of your mind and how it works to sabotage you constantly. Your mind can either be a terrorist that constantly tries to kill you, or a freedom fighter that liberates you. The choice, really, is yours. As a freedom fighter, the starting point is to begin to make decisions and reduce reactions from a point of awareness and understanding that suffering is merely an illusion created by our own mind. There are several ways to reduce the influence of kleshas on us. The first is to follow yamas and niyamas, to engage in self-inquiry by observing yourself. See where your mind goes, observe your actions, and see what the source of your behaviors are. Realize that you are merely a conduit for all your conditionings. The other is to come to your mat and engage in the physical practice of yoga, breathing and/or meditation. All these disciplines start to quieten your mind and bring you back to a point of awareness. Aware of where your mind wants to keep pulling you to, aware of the space, energy, and quietness of your soul when all the chatter dies down. This awareness starts to dismantle the first klesha, which is ignorance of our true self, and the one from which all the other four branch out from. The more we are aware of our true self that emerges in our yoga practices, the better equipped we are to see the influence of other kleshas on our mind and to remove their influence from us. The different practices you so often hear about are mostly a way of sequencing poses. In yoga, there are historically a set of poses which open, stretch, and strengthen your entire body. As yoga moved to the West, the practice became more flamboyant, with an array of new poses, each aimed at keeping the student engaged. Yet the point is not to stimulate, but to quieten. Not to engage, but to allow us to disengage. Yang yoga are practices that focus on the muscle, the powerhouse of our body, the energetic. Words associated with yang are solid, movement, warm, active, functional, and creative. A good yang practice stimulates our sympathetic creative system. It releases energy in us rather than depletes us of energy by dipping into our chi, our core energy that we are born with, which when it runs out, we drop dead. If you've been running around all day like a nutcase and are exhausted, this is not the practice for you. It will deplete you. If you've been sitting around all day feeling lazy and immobile, then a yang practice is perfect for gaining energy, removing blockages from our misaligned body and leaving us feeling stimulated, open, and unburdened by our mind. In these practices, we are very aware of our energetic self. Yang practices that are popular these days are as follows. Vinyasa. What is a vinyasa? It is the process by which we flow up to down to plank, onto our stomachs, lifting our chest, coming into downward dog. A vinyasa practice, like those noted below, will tie poses together with this flow. It dumps stress, builds strength, increases circulation of blood and oxygen, especially to places where our muscles are overly contracted, and it starts to loosen the body. Although it does stretch, its focus is more on strength. Ashtanga, which originated from a system of hatha, is a slow-style yoga that connect the body movement with breath and focus. Iyengar, like Ashtanga, has its foundation in the 8 limbs of yoga that I've written to you about. However, in this practice, the focus is more on alignment and the use of props to ensure we are structurally correct and our focus is directly on our body. Kundalini fundamentally seeks through rapid movements and breath to balance and open our chakras. What these types of yoga seek to do is to teach you to connect breath with movement, to teach your chaotic mind to focus on one thing, your breath and its connection to your body, to remove blockages from a misaligned body, from our twisted energy channels, and to start to increase the vibration of all of our cells, organs, and glands. It is truly the breath and the traditional yoga poses that differentiate yoga from an exercise. Traditional yoga poses mirror our body's energetic systems. They are meant to be repeated. So over time, we can slowly bring our body back to its proper alignment and structure, when nothing is squashed, twisted, or buried in an avalanche of negative emotions. Hatha yoga, one of the oldest forms of yoga, and is a balance between yin and yang yoga, seeks to bring our body back to homeostasis, to balance. It is a slower practice, and poses are held for longer, with breath and alignment. It is the embodiment of yoga. Then there is yin yoga for all our connective tissue, our world-famous fascia, and our mind. Yin is where we hold poses for 3 minutes upwards, as on average it takes 2 minutes for our muscles to relax and the tension to move to our connective tissues. Once there, cells known as fibroblasts are released at the site. Their primary function is to strengthen fibrous connective tissue, increase their flexibility, as well as maintain, enhance, and detoxify the lubrication within our joints. Yin ensures that all our fibrous tissues are connected in an organized way, especially our fascia, which within sits our connective communication cable network. Warped fascia means, well, Chinese whispers in our body, leading to a communication breakdown in us. Our body really is a self-contained spaceship and can either navigate through space smoothly or completely fall apart, thereby cutting our journey short. Yin is also so important for our bones. Did you know that our body is constantly regenerating itself? Skin cells every 2 to 4 weeks, the liver cells every 150 to 500 days, our stomach cells every 5 days, and our bones every 10 years. It is why people who practice yoga actually begin to look younger, as they fuel the regeneration of cells through movement, compression, oxygen, and happy emotions. As we age, yoga reduces the rate of our regenerative process, which slows down. Within all of our bones reside cells called osteocytes, which comprise 95% of all living cells in adult bone. At its simplest explanation, it communicates with osteoblasts, which are responsible for new bone growth, and osteoclasts, which are responsible for breaking down and reabsorbing bones. In yin practices, when we send compression to our bones, osteocytes, SOS osteoblasts, to create and form new bones. These cells are so smart that they do so in an organized, coherent fashion. When we are inactive, there's no compression on the bone, and our calcium levels are low. Osteocytes change allegiances and ask osteoclasts to reabsorb and weaken our bones. In Chinese medicine, yin also ignites our meridians, energy channels, that are connected to all of our organs. In doing so, it gives our organs a good shaking and boosts our energy to ensure that they are working at its optimal level. In Chinese medicine, each organ is attached to an emotion, so healthy organs ensure well-balanced emotions. At the level of the mind, unlike yang yoga, which increases our focus, yin seeks to move us to a place of introspection, to allow the mind to sit in a state of calmness and observe where our mind keeps pulling us, to start to connect to awareness and observe from a place of awareness, acknowledging and viewing our conditionings and the places to which it guides our mind to repeatedly. In yin, we learn to let go of our attachment to our thoughts, to release them from bondage, and allow ourselves to move to a place of knowing our true self. Now, before I go, I want you to practice yoga on your own. Actually, if you want to practice on your own, but you're a little lost, where to begin and how to sequence, here are some tips. Always start your practice with 5 to 10 yogic breaths to bring your mind into the present, onto the mat and into your body, to calm your mind and therefore your breath. Take stock of your body and where you may be holding stress or injuries, and be sure to be present throughout your practice. Set an intention for your practice of a change you want to see in you. If you have been sitting all day, begin with some sun salutations to warm your body and get oxygen to all your muscles, while removing stress and carbon dioxide from you. General rules. Forward bends come before back bends. Remember, forward bends encourage introspection, whereas back bends open us up to change to the world. Work your core before you enter into back bends. Always do a twist after a back bend to neutralize the spine. Try and end your practice with an inversion, so a headstand or a shoulder stand. These are boosts to your immune system. Every muscle has an antagonist, so if you are stretching or strengthening your hamstrings, make sure you also work your quads and your psoas muscles. To do one without the other is to threaten the other with injury. It is well worth investing in a yoga anatomy coloring book to better understand your anatomy. Finish with 1 or 2 restorative poses and then a shavasana, even if the shavasana is just for 2 minutes, allowing your body to create memory and healing. In my next letter, I will explain restorative yoga and why we should all be doing it. But for now, I shall stop here as my brain cells need to regenerate, seeing how you used up so many of them last night. I really love our verbal jouts in what has become our sandbox, knowing that when we sit in that sandbox, our minds can go anywhere without it defining who we are in the eyes of the other. Love, the Enchanted Yogi.